This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Matt Gallant of tribeOS. Matt, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
So what was your background before joining tribeOS? What did you do before this?
Yeah, so before I did tribeOS, I've been in advertising. Ran my first business at 19, which was a painting company, and understood the power of marketing from that point on. We were doing telemarketing, postcards, guerrilla marketing, but then I saw, wow, I was able to get $50,000 of business in a summer, and then repeated that the next year, and I realized, wow, this is quite powerful. And then from then on, I started studying copywriting, which is kind of the art and science of using words to sell. And from there, started studying internet marketing, and then had my first success online 17 years ago. And I've been building virtual companies ever since. And really fell in love with pay-per-click. So I started using AdWords in 2004, and it was profitable day one. So I was selling a skincare product at the time. And it was just mind-blowing. I could go and spend money and acquire customers at a profit. And then I've gone on to spend over 8 figures on pay-per-click alone during the last decade or so, and just fell in love with it. But there was a lot of problems. So starting around 7 years ago, we had tracking issues. We were spending almost $200,000 a month on pay-per-click for one of my companies. And we knew we were profitable with a lot of it, but we knew a lot of it wasn't. And the problem was Google Analytics just didn't cut the mustard. So we decided to build our own tracking platform, which is evolved, and that was called Gold Lantern. And we track 4 different ways and all that stuff. But also I started learning about ad fraud around 6 years ago. And that was also another motivator for the tracking. I didn't understand how to stop the fraud at that time. But I realized, well, if we can't stop it, at least we can figure out what's working and what's not. But rewind about 3 years ago, I met James Wallace, one of the co-founders of tribeOS, and he built a bunch of ad fraud detection technology. So we got together, merged my tracking technology, merged his ad fraud detection and prevention technologies, built a bunch of new tech on top of that. And fast forward today, we got tribeOS. But I've always been incredibly passionate about advertising, because ultimately it's what allows the value creators of the world to get their message out, right? And that's what we're all about. We're about empowering value creators to bring their gifts into the world. It doesn't matter if it's a supplement, a book, a service. If you can't advertise it successfully, it's hard to build and scale a business. Of course, you have word of mouth, which eventually, if you're doing a good job, will take hold. But to get stuff off the ground, there's no better way than good advertising.
So what led you to choose the ad tech space? What led you to choose this sector?
Yeah, the reason, again, I picked ad tech was just 2 things. One, I'm passionate about it. I love it. And second, I saw the problem. So ad fraud, depending on how you do the math, is the 2nd or 3rd most profitable crime in the world. I've personally been robbed for millions. So there was a personal pain there. And I knew there was a big problem to be solved. So that was kind of the combination of, again, the passion for the space and seeing the problem and knowing that we can solve it. So part of the problem with the space is really ethics. Fundamentally, the platforms are all geared to serve the users first, then themselves, and then the publishers. The advertiser is last on the priority list. So what I mean is, you take Google and Facebook, their number one priority is the user, right? On Google.com for the search engine, they have to make sure that the user is getting a good experience. Otherwise, you're not going to use it. Same thing with Facebook. Facebook users go, and obviously they want to have a good experience. But then they put themselves second, and then they put the publishers third, because the publishers are the ones that drive the eyeballs, if you will, and then the advertisers last. So what we've done is we put the advertisers first, because we fundamentally feel they're the ones with the power. They're the ones spending the money on advertising. And by doing that, it's really changed how we approach things, because ultimately, a lot of the big platforms, their goal is to make maximum profit every millisecond versus saying, well, why don't we get rid of the fraud? Why don't we get rid of the junk traffic? And let's give better performance, which long term, we believe, and there's a lot of data to show this, that advertisers will spend more and the industry could grow to a whole different dimension compared to what it is today. So our approach is let's kick out the fraud, which instantly is a significant pay raise or improvement on return on ad spend. Second, let's get rid of the junk traffic. Let's give unparalleled performance to the advertiser in terms of return on ad spend. And then they're going to spend more over time. They'll be lifetime customers, and the word of mouth will go viral. So that's our approach. And again, I'm very clear about all the issues, or most of the issues in the space. And I feel that we've got the answers. So that's why we picked this sector.
Well, great. So what's your advice for people investing in the ad tech space? What do you tell them to do before they write that first check?
Make sure that they're looking at innovation, because ultimately it is a technology-driven sector. And you want to invest in people that understand advertising, that have done advertising, that are clear about the issues, and they've got the understanding and the strategies to stop the fraud and improve performance. Because if you've never done advertising, you might understand technology, but you're not going to necessarily understand how to really improve on what's already been done. So I think that's probably my number one advice.
So how is the industry evolving? What's the growth rate of the sector, and how many companies are engaged, and where is it going?
Well, the sector is growing about 7 to 10% a year, as projected to keep growing for the next 15, 20 years. A lot of the money is moving from offline to online, so it's really fueling the online growth even more, because obviously newspapers are dying and fading. Same thing with radio to a certain degree. TV's become extremely fragmented with all of these streaming services. So in terms of getting predictable performance and being able to really find your audiences, online is superior to really any other medium before it. So that's some of the big trends. Obviously, there's a lot of privacy concerns around data, and we have a huge plan around that that's going to be coming out next year. So we feel that we've got the answer to that as well. But I think the people will want to be compensated for sharing their data, which obviously the big boys have refused to do. So those are some of the trends. Obviously, Google has won the search war. Facebook has won the social media war. However, the big sector that we're focusing on is display advertising, where there is no moat, if you will. So the average publisher has, and we've been analyzing this the last couple months, has anywhere from 25 different advertising networks on their site, because the only thing they care about is to make as much money as possible from every eyeball. That's the only thing that 99.9% of publishers care about, which creates a unique opportunity for guys like us that can go in there, first of all, pay them a higher percentage of the revenue compared to other platforms. And second is, because we're only bidding on the cream of the crop, the best traffic, we're able to pay more on the CPMs than the other networks, because the other networks are not necessarily differentiating versus the cream and the rest of it. So those two things will allow us to get on, again, all the publishing sites that we want to be on and pay them more. So again, there's a huge opportunity in display advertising in companies like us that are highly focused on performance. I think those are some of the big trends. The other one is blockchain, which we're using as well. Again, we don't consider ourselves a blockchain company, but we are using blockchain to provide immutable data. In other words, people cannot tamper or edit the data per se. Now, Bitcoin can go to zero tomorrow. It will have zero effects on our business. We're not dependent on blockchain. if blockchain was at the point of where we could scale with it, maybe we'd look at it with greater depth. I mean, we spent quite a few months in the early going looking at that, but ultimately we concluded blockchain's not ready for that. Let's use what we can, which we have done, but ultimately we're an advertising network. So these are some of the trends. Obviously, there's a little more awareness emerging around ad fraud because it's really kind of an invisible crime. Most advertisers have no idea what's going on. We actually commissioned a survey last year. This was with the average level of experience was 12 years in the advertising industry. Only 11% could actually describe what ad fraud was. So it gives you an idea what the level of awareness is. So it's an invisible crime, but the awareness is growing. Uber has a massive lawsuit against their entire supply chain. Google lost in court last year on a lawsuit because they were not refunding their clients after they got caught with fraud. Procter & Gamble has basically pulled out hundreds of millions from their ad budget because they're sick and tired of being robbed. So Unilever's following suit. So there's a lot of awareness that's starting to emerge, but we got a long way to go before everybody's kind of aware of it. But we're championing that cause. Obviously, ending ad fraud is part of what we do, but ultimately, I think those are some of the big trends going on right now.
Great. So how does tribeOS fit into this landscape in solving ad fraud? What position do you take?
Yeah, we're all about catching all of it. So the way the ad fraud detection works is kind of looking at unnatural and natural behavior. So bots, there's some bots that are smarter than others, but overall, they have patterns of behavior that a human being would not do. So we have dozens of different algorithms that look at, is this natural or is this unnatural? We have massive blacklists of bad IPs. We have blacklists of bad devices. So these blacklists are also very critical to not bidding on the wrong impressions. So that's some of what we're doing. We're detecting ad fraud on 3 levels: on the opportunity level, on the ad level, and even post-click. Very few people are doing that. The second thing we're doing that I think is extremely different is the tracking. As I was alluding to before, cookies are on their way out. So a lot of people are paranoid. A lot of people have ad blockers. So we're tracking 4 different ways. So cookies only being one of them. So it doesn't matter if people are deleting their cookies. And one of the reports that we provide our clients is return on ad spend over time. So ROI over time, which is really valuable because if you're doing a good job as a company, maybe you're only breaking even on your first sale. However, if you do a good job, the customer will come back, they'll buy more things, they'll subscribe to things, they'll continue purchasing whatever you have to offer. Our tracking and the way we built it allows you to see that after 30 days, your return on ad spend went up 50% or 100%. And you can look at 90 days, 6 months. That allows you to make very smart, precise decisions on what to continue and what to discontinue. And that was always one of my biggest peeves with the platforms is their tracking was so horrible that we were never really clear on what was really working and what wasn't working. So we've solved that pain point. And now the other big thing we're focusing on is the conversion side, because a lot of our clients are performance driven. And I think that's another trend is more companies, including even big brands, are becoming more performance driven over just getting eyeballs, so to speak, on their ads. So the conversion algorithms that we're building, I think, are going to allow us to become the most profitable platform on the market. And that's our goal. Our goal is to become the most profitable ad marketplace ever for advertisers. And the conversion engine is really the key piece of that, because ultimately it's about bidding more on the right people, bidding less or not bidding at all on the wrong people. And that's what we're working on. So we're really excited about that.
So what's the next stage for tribeOS? What's going to happen next?
Yeah, again, we're continuing to work on the conversion engine. That's our primary focus. We're layering, similar to the ad fraud side, we're creating all these layers. And every week we're just adding one more. And every time we add one of them, we're improving conversions 10, 20, 30%, sometimes even more. So within the next 2 or 3 months, I believe we'll have one of the best conversion engines out there. We're building something called commercial intent identifier, where we can identify if someone is surfing the internet just to be entertained or if they're actually in a buying state of mind. Because somebody's playing games on their phone, they're not necessarily in a buying state of mind. Now, can you convert that person to a customer? Maybe, but it's a lot harder than if you're seeing patterns of behavior that are indicating that they're educating themselves or buying. So that's a big piece that we're really innovating and building. We're really excited about that. The other thing we're doing is onboarding clients. We've got $85 million in signed letters of intent and pledged advertising. So right now we're onboarding 1, 2, 3 new clients a week from that pool of hyper interested advertisers. This has been the easiest thing I've ever sold. I know it's a horrible metaphor, but I feel like I'm selling crack to crack addicts, because literally I'm closing, multi-million-dollar deals in less than 15 minutes. Because if you're a performance guy, you want more traffic. That's what drives business for a lot of e-com and internet-based companies. The other thing too is, because we're making advertisers our first priority, we're approaching them and treating them in a way that they've never been treated like before. And that's really exciting to them, because whether it's, again, the big two, they'll kick out performance-based advertisers for the smallest of things. Just to give you an example, Facebook, if you're selling, let's say, a fitness product, you cannot even have a guy or a girl without a shirt. Well, let's just say a guy without a shirt on your ads, because they consider that fat shaming. So that's how far the political correctness has gone into some of these platforms. We have none of that. As long as everything is obviously FTC compliant and legal, we will embrace these clients and help them scale. So again, right now it's about onboarding, it's about building the conversion engine and making sure that we're delivering world-class performance.
Sounds like a great company that's doing a lot of great things. In the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Yeah, so obviously somebody's interested in investing. We're starting a round. We're doing a $2.5 million round. We already got $250,000 in. So anybody, if this sounds like interesting, then I'd be happy to hop on a call with anyone who's interested in learning more.
Great. How best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Yeah, Matt at tribeOS.io. So MATT at TRIBEOS.io. So Matt at tribeOS.io. That's my personal email, and I'll get back to you and we'll hop on a call.
Great. We'll add those to the show notes along with your LinkedIn profile and website. And I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Thank you.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Halti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.